Charlie. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate that you are here and you are going to share with the listeners your story, your health journey. So I'm wondering if we can just launch straight in and if you can paint a picture of your health before you made a decision to start improving it. What did that look like?
Thanks, Ross. Well, first of all, I think when we have health, we don't think of it. We have this baseline, there's these things that we think we can do, and we're just, especially when we're under 40, we're indestructible. And
Yeah.
we take our health for granted. I suppose when I was younger, I used to ride bikes all the time. I've always been anti-car. So I would ride a bike to and from work, which would be about 50 Ks every day. But basically I was doing about 20,000 kilometers a year on a push bike. And then unfortunately, I fell off the push bike. And up until then, I could eat whatever I wanted, do whatever I want. If I wanted to run 10 kilometers, I could just run 10 kilometers. And then...
Amazing. We can't all do that.
Yeah, well, I think this was when I was about 35 and I fell off and I hurt my shoulder and I was really scared, probably for the first time, that I wasn't going to get better. And I stayed off the bike for 3 years. And I became a very sedentary person in those 3 years, and I went up to 147 kilos, which in anybody's language is a lot. And it was very fat. And I had not a young family then, but a family that was relying on me. And one day I just decided this is going to kill me. And I got back on the bike. And within maybe 3 months, all that extra weight had stripped away. Like, it was amazing. I lost like 40 kilos in 3 months of riding to and from work. And was it easy? No, it was not easy restarting again. But the amazing thing was you could see progress every week. Like, it was so quick the weight came off. Again, it was before I was 40.
Yeah.
And, I think it sent me a negative message. It said that I could let my weight get out of control and I could easily just bring it back. And that came back to bite me when I moved to the Middle East. And I didn't ride a bicycle in the Middle East because it was very dangerous living there. The roads are like just death incorporated. And the weight just rushed back. Now, it never got back to the 147 kilos, but it got back to 100 and say 37 kilos. So it was significant again. But I still thought, oh, I'm indestructible. But now I'm in my 50s. And
I'm wondering, before we go further in this story, you said something that I find really interesting, and that is, one day I woke up and I thought, this is going to kill me. What led you to that point? What was happening just prior to that?
well, actually, I think that all overweight people wake up every day with the knowledge that the weight is bad for you and it's probably going to kill you. So I don't believe that anybody's wandering around being severely overweight thinking this is a good thing. And although it'd be contentious, I don't believe the health at every size message. I don't believe there may be a few people in the world that believe that and it's their life and they incorporate it. But being a fat person, I listen to it, and yes, it is comfortable to hear it, but I don't believe it. What actually moved me on is, of course, you start getting these messages that your body is not okay, and you think,
Okay.
I'm either going to have to do something.
Yeah.
Now, the second time round, it was a lot easier to do because I was getting these yearly, quite in-depth medicals, and you could see the weight was affecting all the things that you couldn't see on the surface. So all your blood work was getting worse. I was getting high cholesterol and issues, and my blood pressure, which I'd never had a problem with before, was going up, was elevating and all that. But also I was finding it difficult just to do things that I'd always done in the past, right? Just with no problem. So even walking upstairs, I'd get to the top of the stairs and I'd be all puffy, right? So
That was something that was new for you.
it was new for me. It was new for me. And so I was not going to retire. Like, there was a few people, my sisters, my wife, my kids, that wanted me to retire because I think they could see that the job, while I was enjoying it, was killing me.
I see.
But
Right. But that's what they were observing.
They were observing that. And, I was in this fortunate situation. I didn't need to work for money. I was working for the enjoyment of the job. But the job was killing me, like it was incredibly sedentary and also completely surrounded with food, So we live in this blessed period in the world where there's too many calories. And I know some people have food insecurity, but for the majority of us, instead of having to search every day and worry about our next meal, what we literally have to do is worry about not eating the next meal. We're awash in sea of calories.
Yeah.
And never have calories been so cheap. So we all complain about the cost of living and everything, but literally the cheapest food, the most calorie dense and the nutritionally less food is so easy to get and so cheap and it's so readily available. And so I just decided to go on this bicycle trip, which I'd never had a problem riding before. And I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack on the first day. I literally thought we picked a short period. It was only like 40 Ks to ride the first day. And I literally was on the side of the road, sitting down, going, I can't continue.
Yeah.
So on that bike trip, we rode 1,500 kilometers. And as we were going along, I could feel my body coming back to life. And, about 1,000 kilometers into it, I decided that's it. I'm going to retire. Like, I'm just going to retire. And I'm going to do this sort of full time because this feels so good. And literally, the more you exercise, the less your body troubles you, the less it hurts. Or that's been my experience anyway. My shoulder, the one I hurt falling off the bike, exercising every day, my shoulder doesn't hurt at all. If I stop exercising, I start walking around holding my shoulder all the days. And I just felt so good. And you could feel that return to health. Now, it was a lot harder than when I was in my 30s. The weight hasn't stripped off so fast, but it did come off and all the markers have got better. My blood pressure's back into the normal range. And tomorrow we're getting my blood test back to see, but I'm fairly sure that my cholesterol will be back. But I feel a lot better. And
you feel that your cholesterol will be back elevated or back to normal?
I think it'll be back to normal. But even if it isn't, what I think is now I can do anything. Like I can now when we go to park run with no training, I can run 5 kilometers. I can turn up at pickleball where we met, Roz, and I can hold my own against the pickleballers, where before, to sit out in the sun for 2.5 hours when I was carrying all that extra weight and having no fitness, I would, after 20 minutes, I would be shot. I'd be blown. I'd have to go and sit down. And I think we talk about health, but we also, and we couple that with longevity. But longevity is not important to me because I don't want to live to 103 and be confined to a bed. And I really think that we should look and say, what is health? And, what is the purpose of life? And I think it is to still be able to do the things that we want to do. And yes, there's going to be a fall off in performance, but you can see in a lot of people that fall off is very fast. I see a lot of 50-year-old men that are old, and I don't want to be old at 50. I'm 55, by the way. And I do think the best thing that I ever did in my life was I gave up drinking when I was 20. So that was probably the start. Because I was saying, for the positives that drinking gives me, it takes so much away.
Yeah. That's really good. I'm interested, when you first got on that bike, the first time you felt like you were going to have a heart attack, but you didn't, and you got on a second time. So often when we start, it's really hard, and you had cycled in the past, so you were used to getting around fairly quickly. What is it like when you go back to an activity, I guess, that you are familiar with? And a lot of listeners would have experienced this. When you're used to playing a sport or you're used to walking so far, you have a setback, you go back to that activity, it's really hard to get going again. Was it hard for you?
Well, I love bike riding, And so what I felt, I think, the most of that, yes, I was scared about my health, but I also had this full sense of loss because this is an activity that I really love to do. And, it opens up the world to us. And, there's all these electric bikes and things now, and you could get a motorbike. But I always liked the whole purity of like cycling myself and the sense of achievement you get. And I know I'm never going to be that 30-year-old person or 25-year-old cyclist again. I'm just never going to be at that level of performance. But I would say I've cycled all my life, and that's been a gradual drop off. But this was not a gradual drop off. This was like literally I couldn't get up like 5-degree hills, And what it made me was mad at myself mainly that I'd let things get so far, that I couldn't do the one thing that I kind of have made my whole life, cycling. When I look at myself, I think I'm a cyclist,
I'm thinking for somebody that could go two ways. You could get mad at yourself for not being able to do that, and you could give up. Why did you keep going?
Well, I like a challenge, and I know it's achievable. Like, cycling is not like running, it's low impact. It's there's some pain involved, but the pain is in your muscles, it's not in your joints. And it's definitely an achievable target, and everybody can cycle, like everybody. You'll see 80, 90-year-old people cycling still in Europe because this is what they do every day. You go to Amsterdam, or you'll see these very old ladies, and it used to be the way that people got around. And I know you can do it. Yes, you won't be a world-class athlete, but and it'll be very positive for you. And truthfully, with cycling, it solves everything. Like, nobody likes all these busy roads. We'll put people on bicycles. Nobody likes the cost of living and the $2 petrol. Oh, well, cycling's free. I like to eat. I really do like to eat. I think we all do at some level. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, it should be.
If you cycle, there's not many fat cyclists. And if you cycle every day, you manage your calorie input, and you can't eat while you're cycling. So I don't know about you, but when I drive, sometimes I get sneaky snacks in the car, and I eat, and I'm drinking. Try doing that on a bike, you'll just fall off. And the world is just so much more interesting when you're cycling along. But I do think cycling is the one thing in society that if we normalised, it would have this massive effect on the whole populace's health, because it literally does everything that you want to happen. It's good cardiovascular, it's good with your muscles, it works your largest muscles. It doesn't have to be Lycra on the weekend. I don't do Lycra on the weekend, and it's only ever given me benefits. And the only negatives are cars. So we need to work on getting cars off the road or better cycling infrastructure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the infrastructure is key. And it's it's so important.
Once you go to Europe and you see what can be achieved, like you can ride thousands and thousands of kilometers and never have to go on a road other than to cross a road. And even there, as the cyclist approaches the crossing, it'll change the light so the cyclist doesn't have to slow down. Now that, for an Australian, is such a welcoming pursuit. Rather than in Australia, there seems to be all this hostility towards cyclists. But if I could say one thing, it's like cycling's all good. Like, there's no negative in cycling. There's no negative. It saves money. It's good for your health. It's something that you can do into your older age. And I just think it's all positive.
That's fantastic. You obviously love it a lot. And I think that's key in itself. You've found an activity where you're moving and you love it.
Yeah.
So I think whether it's cycling, whether it's hiking, whatever it is, that can be a key. If somebody can find something that they love to do and they're moving, that's great.
Well, Roz, I met you at pickleball, and I've come back to Australia, and at the moment I'm not doing much cycling, so I have to find something to replace it. And I bought a gym membership. Now, I think we've all had gym memberships, and I think I've fallen into the exact trap of the gym membership. Now, my gym is beautiful. It's got a 50-meter pool. It's got a 20-meter pool. It's the 20-meter pool's heated. It's got views out over the water. It's absolutely beautiful. It's never crowded. Everything's beautiful. I never go. I never go. Sometimes my wife drags me down there and I go into the 20-meter pool and I sort of waddle up and down, because I don't enjoy it. I really don't enjoy it. And I know it's good for me and I know everything. But knowing that it's good for me and me actually doing it is two totally different things. So there's no real secrets in this. I mean, we all know it, but knowing something and doing something are two totally different things. But then I find pickleball. And pickleball, I quite like it, and when I say I quite like it, literally I'm going twice a day and I'm spending 5 hours on the courts,
Gosh.
and it's not. I would stay longer because I enjoy it. It's social. It's something that you enjoy, and that for me has been the thing. I need to do something that I enjoy, and if I enjoy something, I'm probably going to do too much of it.
Or at least enough of it.
Yes.
Well, that's another thing. Doing too much of something, we also have to assess the risks and be sensible in
Everything's
that
a balance.
It is. It's a balance. I want to just touch on something. You mentioned yesterday, or you're waiting for your blood test results. Did you engage any health professionals along your journey of weight loss? Was there any technique or any philosophy? What did you find helpful during that time?
No, I didn't engage anybody. I think that I know the reasons why I put on weight, and I think I know how to lose weight. Although I'm not going to say that weight is the only single, because we could all just sit in a room and not eat, right? And we'd lose weight, but we'd also lose muscle mass, and we'd also, generally, I think that would be a negative. So what I believe is to lose weight through minimizing my eating, and eating the 3 meals a day and having a lot of fruit and vegetables. But also I need to do that activity to maintain the muscle mass as well, which is probably even more important than losing the weight, But what I've been doing is in Bahrain, I got all my baseline stuff done. So the Australian government puts out these tests for the over 50s, and I made sure all that was done. And now I'm embarking on a yearly review of those, and I'm managing the baselines and seeing, because I think our body sends us messages, but some of those messages we can't read without, we can't access until we go and talk to medical professionals. And I'm also building a relationship with a single doctor to come with me on the journey rather than seeing a lot of doctors. But what I would say is there's an awful lot of resources out there. I am surprised that it's quite difficult to access them unless you're prepared to prioritize them. And the way you prioritize them here is with money, which, is surprising. It seems like a real barrier to entry.
There are some barriers for sure. I've been researching what is available to Australians as far as free resources. There are a lot of resources that are out there. The onus, unfortunately, I see it, is on the person to research what's available. We need to sort of start advertising and making known all of the resources that are there, so that they're more accessible to people. But I agree, there's a lot of activities and tests as well that are cost prohibitive, and it is inequitable.
Again, it's also cost prohibitive, but so I did the over 50s, I'm forgetting the word, but it's to check for colon cancer,
Oh, right. Yep,
and it was free. The
Yes.
government sent it out.
Yep.
And I just redid it, and there was like $100 charge, and I'm saying it just seems to me like
To redo the test?
yeah, to redo the test. So I just do it every year. I just think because the costs of me getting that would be so high, to the society in whole, we should make those tests, free, especially in high-risk individuals, over the age of 50, But I see a lot of that. A lot of the tests that I'm doing, there's a barrier to entry. I can see why people would say, oh, she'll be right, mate, and we'll just continue on. I can spend this $45, putting another half a tank of petrol in my car.
I agree. That's it. And that's an essential to put fuel in the tank. That's essential
Unless you ride a bike.
Right now, unless you ride a bike. That's it. But yeah, if you are going to be proactive with your health, there are costs involved. I love the stories, that of people that are doing things before they get sick. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's what can we do before we get sick. And at the moment, there is still a lot within our control. And I think it's exciting what you're doing. You're having this big annual checkup, and, there's probably a few days or weeks waiting for results, and that can be stressful in itself. But the upside is, if there is something, you can intervene early.
Yeah, I'm not stressed about my health. I should point that out. I'm not stressed. I think my health's good, but I think that we do maintenance on our car, and our car's completely replaceable. Our bodies are not replaceable. So to do planned maintenance on your body just makes sense. And also, unless we're involved in some sort of catastrophic incident, it's not one Mars bar that's going to put us in the hospital. It's having a Mars bar every day, or 3 times a day. We don't get fat overnight. It's not like we had one meal and then we're fat. It's like it sneaks up on us over time, because every time we look in the mirror, it's only a little tiny bit different than last time. And we normalize the activity, right? And we don't lose weight, and we don't bring our health back with going to the gym once. I mean, it'd be great if we could. If anybody could invent that, it'd be fantastic. I'd be your biggest customer. But, what we're talking about is effort over a long period of time to correct the damage that you did before. Yeah. And your body has a memory. It wants to go back to the higher weight all the time. So, once you've been up there, you're always going to carry that legacy for the rest of your life, that your body's going to want to go back to it. So it's not one meal, it's dedication and understanding that we live in a sea of calories, and they're very cheap, they're very available. So literally it's a conversation you have to have inside of you every day, that tomorrow's Charles is the same guy as today's Charles. Because, today's Charles would like to have, the Mars bar, but tomorrow's Charles might not want me to have it. Sometimes we disassociate the two. Yeah.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think habits, we are a lagging measure in a sense of the habits that we engage. So whether they're good habits or bad habits, we're a measure of that in a way. And as putting on weight can take some time, often over years, and losing weight realistically can often take years as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration that you think you're doing the work, but you're not seeing the outcome. And it's almost the same as putting weight on. You're being hypercritical. You're looking yourself in the mirror every day, so you don't see that snapshot where you were 20 kilos heavier. You're only seeing and there's this thing where people, if I want to have a new car, I can just go buy a new car. I just trade it in. I get a bit of a loan, but I don't see that when I have a new car tomorrow. It don't work like that with your body. It really doesn't. It's like, okay, this is going to take a long time, and you're in it for the long road. Yeah. And one bad day isn't going to put you off the rails, but a bad year might.
That's it. We've talked a lot about physical health. How have you managed and prioritized your mental health?
So I would say for a man, I worked in the same industry for 30 plus years, and I took a lot of pride in telling people what I did. And when I went to work, everybody listened to me, and everybody, if I walked into a room and I talked about stuff, I had a lot of positional power, but I also think I had a lot of charisma at work. and I had people that generally liked me and I liked them. And almost all my friends were at work. So I worked in several different workplaces. And when I get there, you know, you make your own posse and you start socializing with those people and everything. And then you leave work and all of a sudden you're by yourself, you have no positional power. So I did struggle. I have struggled and I'm still struggling, I think. And what I'm trying to do is like by joining things like Pickle Group and going to groups and saying, look, I'm lonely, I'm trying to make friends, being completely upfront. Because I think that I am not an island unto myself. I'm a social person. I need to have people around me. I need to have an extended group of friends. Now, that doesn't mean I need to have 50 or 60, you know, acquaintances, but I need to have 3 or 4 like people I can ring up on those down days and I can just hang out. One of the good things about moving back to Brisbane is now I'm with my family again. So I was a single father for quite a long time, so it's great having the kids around and stuff like that. But I would say to every man out there, don't retire if you don't have a plan of what to do. Like, just don't do it. Like, because I had a plan and I've enacted that plan. And even for me, it's been like many days I I hadn't retired and I'd been back at work. You know, there's a lot of sense of loss of self. That's what I think. And I think it's clearly good to talk about it and not internalize it. And it's clearly good to recognize it, you know. Yeah. And it's also a bit like cutting, and we all know this, we're all replaceable. But it's kind of like when I left my last place of work, I kind of wanted the wheels to fall off the place and the whole place to go into the ground, you know. But it continued on, you know. But yeah, I miss work. But I am finding that, you know, I like the things that I'm doing better now. You know, the whole world is full of opportunity, and I intend to make the most of it.
Yeah, that's really great. What advice would you give to others who are hearing your story and wondering whether they can make changes in their life?
I was 147 kilos. Like, you know, that's circus fat. You know, like that's where people stop and look at you as you're walking along the road. You know, and there's not much you can do. And now I'm like probably 110 kilos and I feel I can do anything. I mean, you know, I walked to the base of Mount Everest and, you know, I last year I did a 500-kilometer walk. All these experiences are fantastic. And if I can do it, you can too. And I literally, when I was at 147, I found it difficult to walk around the block. But it won't happen overnight, and you've got to be happy with very slow progress. And I would say to everybody, get a bike. You know, get a bike and be advocates for bike riding in all levels of government and to everybody around you. The less cars that are on the road, the better.
Yeah, Charlie, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom, all your stories, and just some really practical tips for people. I think, yeah, it's been a real privilege to hear your story. I'm really grateful that you've just brought us along on that journey as well. And yeah, all the best.
Well, thank you for having me, but I would take umbrage at the wisdom because I think the message I'm trying to send is we all know this. Like, we all know this is not a secret. This is just taking it from what we know and turning it into action. Because, you know, all the wishful thinking in the world won't make any difference until you turn it into action.
That's great. Just one last thing. Charlie has a YouTube channel, and I just thought if anybody would like to follow along on his journeys, he does these incredible cycling trips across the planet. And if you want to follow along, Charlie, how would people do that?
Well, it's just on YouTube. It's called Adventures of a Fat Man. Yes.
I love the title.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problems.